My brother betrayed me with my girlfriend 26 years ago. Now he tried to manipulate my daughter to get into her wedding. But she recorded him confessing his true intentions and exposed him to 30,000 people. His son's wedding was left in ruins. I'm 46 years old. I work in construction. And what happened a few months ago with my daughter's wedding basically brought to the surface something that had been buried for like 26 years. And when I say buried, I don't mean I had gotten over it or forgiven it, but that I had simply managed to live my life without thinking about it every single day. You know what I mean? But turns out the past never really stays in the past, especially when it comes to family. I guess I should start at the beginning. 26 years ago, I was 20. I was in college, and I was dating this girl, Carolyn. We'd been together for like 2 years, one of those relationships you think is gonna last forever when you're young and stupid. I was in love, or what you think love is at that age, and I thought we were serious. I had a younger brother, Austin, like 3 years younger than me, and we were close back then. I mean, we fought like all brothers do, but I looked out for him, gave him advice, that kind of thing. So one day I came home to my apartment earlier than expected. I'd gotten out of class early because the professor got sick or something. I don't remember exactly, and well, I found them together. In my bed. In my bed. Can you believe it? I'm not going to go into details about what happened after because, honestly, it's blurry. I remember yelling a lot. I think I threw some stuff. Austin tried to apologize, but I basically kicked him out of the place, and Carolyn was crying and saying she was sorry but that they had fallen in love, as if that made everything okay. It took me several days to process what had happened, and when I did, I made a decision that would change everything. I told Austin I never wanted to see him again in my life, and I meant it. My parents, Harold and Joyce, tried to mediate. They told me he was my brother, that I had to forgive him, that mistakes happen, but I was furious and hurt, and I basically told them they could keep having a relationship with him if they wanted, but I was done. What made everything worse, much worse, was that Austin and Carolyn stayed together. It wasn't just a one-night affair or a stupid mistake. No, they kept dating after that, and like a year later they got married. They got married. My brother married the girl I had been dating for 2 years, the girl who cheated on me with him, and my parents went to the wedding. They invited me too. Obviously, I didn't go. And that caused a bunch of family drama. My mom cried and told me I was dividing the family. My dad told me I was being immature. But I didn't give in. I held my ground. For the next few years, I basically lived my life as if Austin didn't exist. When there were family gatherings, I didn't go if he was going to be there, or I made arrangements with my parents to go on different days. At Christmas, I'd visit my parents in the morning. Austin would go in the afternoon. It was complicated and weird, but it worked for me. Eventually, I met other people, had other relationships. And like 18 years ago, I had a daughter with my ex-wife Sandra. The relationship with Sandra didn't work out. We got divorced when Megan was like 8, but we maintained a cordial relationship for her sake. And Megan, my daughter, well, she's the best thing that's ever happened to me. She's smart, funny, studious, everything you could ask for in a daughter. I have a girlfriend now, Meredith. We've been together for like 5 years, and things are good. She knows everything about the situation with Austin. Supports me completely. Has never pressured me to forgive him or talk to him. My parents over time stopped insisting so much. I guess they resigned themselves to the fact that I was never going to change my mind. And honestly, I was fine with that. I didn't feel like I was missing anything in my life by not having Austin in it. Yes, technically, I had lost my brother, but from my perspective, he had betrayed me in the worst possible way and didn't deserve to be in my life. So fast forward to last year. Megan, who's now 26, met this guy, David. A good guy, hardworking, treats her well, and they got engaged. I was happy for her, obviously. And when they started planning the wedding, I told her I'd help financially, that I'd pay for whatever she needed. Because she's my only daughter, and I wanted her to have the special day she deserved. Everything was going well until one day, like 4 months before the wedding, Megan came to my house to talk. She had that look, that look people get when they're about to tell you something you don't want to hear. She sat down on my living room couch. Meredith was there too, and Megan started with, "Dad, I need to talk to you about the wedding guest list." And I, without thinking much about it, told her, sure, to tell me. And then she dropped the bomb. She said, "I want to invite Uncle Austin and his family to the wedding." I just sat there trying to process what I'd just heard. Megan knew the whole story. I'd never hidden it from her. I always knew that someday she'd ask why she never saw my brother, and I decided to be honest with her from when she was old enough to understand. So she knew perfectly well why I didn't talk to Austin. I asked her why she would want to do that, and she told me he was her uncle, that technically he was family, and that she felt it was important to have him there. She explained that Austin had been contacting her over the last year, sending her messages, calling her occasionally, and that they'd developed some kind of relationship. I had no idea about this. Nobody had told me anything. And she said that Austin had always been nice to her, that he sent her gifts on her birthday and Christmas, and that she felt he deserved to be at her wedding. I told her, "Megan, you know what he did. You know why I don't talk to him." And she said, "Yes, Dad, I know, but that happened a long time ago, and people change, and maybe it's time to let the past go." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I told her directly, "If Austin goes to that wedding, I'm not going. And not only that, I won't pay for anything." Megan went pale and told me I couldn't be serious, and I told her I was completely serious. Meredith tried to calm me down, put her hand on my arm and said, "Nicholas, maybe we should think about it," but I was furious. I told Megan she had to choose, either him or me, and I realized it sounded like a horrible ultimatum. But in that moment, I didn't care. Megan started crying and left my house, saying she couldn't believe I was doing this to her. The next few days were hell. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. First, Sandra called, Megan's mom, yelling at me about how I could do this to our daughter, that I was being selfish and resentful, that I needed to grow up and get over what happened 26 years ago. Then my parents called, both on conference, basically telling me the same thing, that I was ruining my daughter's wedding over an old grudge, that Austin had. I tried to apologize multiple times over the years, but I never gave him the chance. That his wife, Carolyn, wasn't the same person as 26 years ago. Even some cousins and aunts and uncles started calling me, or sending me messages saying I was being unreasonable. But I didn't give in. The thing is, for me, it wasn't just about what happened 26 years ago. It was about the principle. It was about the fact that Austin had betrayed me in the most fundamental way possible, and then had moved on with his life like nothing happened, had married Carolyn, had kids with her, and had never really shown any genuine remorse. And the apologies my parents said he'd tried to give always seemed empty to me. Like, "I'm sorry you felt bad." Not, "I'm sorry for what I did." And now, after more than 2 decades of no contact, suddenly he wanted to be at my daughter's wedding because it was convenient for him to look like the good uncle and family man. A couple weeks went by, and Megan wasn't talking to me. I was in bad shape. I'm not going to lie. Not sleeping well, was in a bad mood at work. Meredith was telling me maybe I should consider giving in a little, but I felt that if I gave in on this, I'd be betraying myself. You know what I mean? It would be like saying that what Austin did was okay, or that it didn't really matter. Then one Saturday morning, like 3 weeks after the fight with Megan, my doorbell rang. It was like 10 inches the morning. I was in sweatpants and an old t-shirt because it was my day off. I opened the door and there was Megan, with a strange smile on her face, and behind her were Austin and Carolyn, my brother and his wife. At my door. After 26 years. I felt my blood boiling immediately. I looked at Megan and said, "What the hell is this?" And she said, "Dad, just listen to them. Just talk to them for 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." I said no, to get off my property. But then Austin spoke. He said, "Nicholas, please, just let me say what I came to say and then I'll leave if you want." His voice sounded older. Obviously. He was like 43 now. He wasn't the 2-3-year-old I'd last seen. He had some gray hair, looked tired, but was still recognizably my brother. I told him he had exactly 1 minute. Austin started with this long, elaborate apology about how what he did was wrong, how he'd been young and immature, how he understood he'd hurt me deeply, How he'd tried to contact me many times but respected my desire not to have contact, how he'd matured and changed, how Carolyn regretted it too, and blah blah blah. Carolyn was standing there nodding. She also looked older, had shorter hair, some expression lines, but was basically still the same person who'd cheated on me all those years ago. When he finished talking, there was silence. Megan was looking at me with hopeful eyes, as if she thought I was going to have some epiphany and forgive everything right there. But all I felt was rage. I told Austin his apology meant nothing to me, that he'd had 26 years to really be sorry, and that showing up now just because my daughter was getting married didn't change anything. I told them to leave my house and never come back. Megan started crying again and told me I was being horrible, and I told her that she had been horrible ambushing me this way, bringing them to my house without my permission. Austin and Carolyn left, and Megan stayed a few more minutes yelling at me that I was ruining her life, that I was a bitter and resentful man, that I needed therapy or something. I told her that if she wanted to have a relationship with Austin, that was her decision. But I wasn't going to pretend everything was fine just to make her happy. Eventually she left too, slamming the door so hard it made the whole house vibrate. Meredith, who had been witnessing all this from the living room, came and hugged me. She didn't say anything for a while, just hugged me, and I realized I was shaking. I don't know if it was from rage or something else, but I couldn't stop shaking. After a while, Meredith told me, "Honey, I understand why you're upset. But maybe you need to think about what this means for your relationship with Megan." And she was right. I knew it, but in that moment I couldn't think rationally. The next few days were more calls, more messages, more people telling me I was wrong. My mom, Joyce, called me crying, saying she just wanted to have all her family together before she died, which seemed manipulative to me but also made me feel bad because she's like 70 and won't live forever. My dad, Harold, was more direct, told me I was being an idiot and that I was going to lose my daughter over being stubborn. Sandra sent me a long text message telling me she'd always known I was selfish, but this was a new level. But then, like a week after the incident at my house, Megan showed up again. This time she was alone, and she looked different, like calmer. She sat down and told me, "Dad, I need to apologize. I shouldn't have brought them to your house. Like that, it was disrespectful to your boundaries, and I'm sorry." I was surprised to hear her say that. She continued explaining that she'd been thinking a lot about everything, that she'd talked to David, her fiancé, and that they'd decided that Austin wasn't going to be invited to the wedding after all. She said she'd thought it through and understood that what she was asking of me was too much, that it put my relationship with her at risk, and that I was her father, and that was more important. I felt relieved. I'm not going to lie, but I also felt a little guilty. I asked her if she was sure, and she said yes, that this whole drama had been her idea and that she was going to fix it. I told her I loved her and that I appreciated her understanding my position, although part of me still felt bad about putting her in that situation. But well, she made her decision and I supported it. The wedding was scheduled for 2 months later, and things started to calm down. I kept helping with expenses, got involved in planning again, and my relationship with Megan seemed to be recovering. Everything was going well until like 3 weeks before the wedding. Megan called me very agitated. She told me she needed to tell me something she'd discovered about Austin. Turns out that Megan, after deciding not to invite him to the wedding, had told him directly that he wasn't going to be on the guest list, and according to what she told me, Austin got really upset. Not sad or disappointed, but upset. He'd told her she was insulting him, after all the effort he'd made to connect with her, that she was being manipulated by me, that I'd brainwashed her against him. Megan had hung up on him after that, but then had kept investigating a bit because something didn't add up about Austin's sudden interest in having a relationship with her. Megan had talked to her cousin, Austin's son, who's like 22 years old, and this kid had told her that Austin was planning his own wedding. His son was getting married in like 6 months, and that Austin had been saying he needed to fix things with me before that wedding because he didn't want his son to think he was the type of person who destroys family relationships. Basically, Austin hadn't tried to reconnect out of genuine remorse or because he missed his brother. He'd done it because he wanted to look good in front of his own son. He wanted to be able to say, "Look, I made peace with my brother. We're a united family," all that story. When Megan told me this, I don't know how to explain what I felt. It was like a validation of everything. I'd always thought about Austin. He had never really changed, never felt genuine remorse. It had all been an act, a calculated move to improve his own image. I told Megan I appreciated her telling me, and she told me she felt horrible for having doubted me, for having pressured me so much to forgive someone who clearly didn't deserve it. But here's where the story takes a turn I didn't expect. Megan, after discovering this, decided to do something that, in retrospect, was brilliant but also kind of nuclear. She confronted Austin again, this time with her cousin present as a witness, and asked him directly if his intentions had been genuine or if he'd been using the situation to look good in front of his family. Austin, according to what Megan told me later, had tried to deny it at first, but eventually had admitted that yes, part of his motivation had been to show his son that he could be the bigger man and forgive past mistakes, which was ironic, considering I was the one supposedly needing to forgive, but he was the one who had committed the original betrayal. Megan had recorded that entire conversation on her phone without Austin knowing, and then she did something I never asked her to do, but that honestly made me feel proud of her. She posted a video on her social media, not the complete audio, but a summary of what had happened. She explained how her uncle had tried to manipulate the situation, how she discovered his true intentions, and how she completely supported her father's decision to maintain his boundaries after such a fundamental betrayal. The video went viral in our town. Literally everyone saw it. We had like 30,000 views in 2 days, which for a town of 80,000 people is quite a lot. The reaction was mixed. A lot of people supported Megan and supported me, saying I had every right to keep Austin out of my life, and that what he'd done, both 26 years ago and recently, was unforgivable. But there were also people who said Megan had gone too far, that she shouldn't have made such a delicate family situation public, that she was embarrassing Austin unnecessarily. My parents called me furious, telling me I should have controlled my daughter, that this was going to destroy Austin. How could we do this to the family? But you know what? For the first time in all this drama, I actually felt supported. I hadn't asked Megan to do that, but the fact that she herself had made that decision made me feel like someone finally understood me, that someone saw the situation from my perspective. Austin and Carolyn were obviously furious, threatened to sue for defamation, but they had no legal basis because everything Megan had said was true. My parents' relationship with me got tense again, but honestly at that point I almost didn't care anymore. Megan's wedding was 2 months ago. It was beautiful. She looked amazing. David cried when he saw her walk down the aisle. I cried a little too, although I tried to hide it. Austin wasn't there, obviously, and his absence wasn't noticed or missed by anyone, except maybe my parents, who looked a little sad but didn't say anything. It was a perfect day. No drama, no tension, just celebration. Megan thanked me during her speech, said something about how I'd always been her rock and her support, and I realized in that moment that it had all been worth it. I hadn't given in on my principles. I hadn't pretended to be okay with something I wasn't okay with, and still maintained the most important relationship in my life, the one I have with my daughter. After the wedding, my mom found me at the reception. She looked tired, older than I remembered. She told me, "Nicholas, I know we don't agree on all this, but you're my son, and I love you, and I understand why you did what you did." It was maybe the first time in 26 years that I felt she really understood me, or at least was trying to understand. My dad didn't say anything, but he gave me a long hug when we were saying goodbye, and I guess that was his way of saying the same thing. The last time I heard anything about Austin was like a month ago. His wedding, his son's, apparently was a disaster. A lot of people didn't go because of all the drama from Megan's video, and those who went were uncomfortable. I heard through third parties that Austin was trying to play the victim role, saying I had poisoned the whole family against him. But nobody was buying that story. His relationship with his own son is apparently tense now, because the son saw Megan's video and started questioning other things about his father. I'm not going to lie. There's a small part of me that feels satisfied about that, although I know I probably shouldn't. As for where I am now, I'm good. Megan is happy in her marriage. She's coming to dinner next week with David. Meredith and I are considering officially moving in together, maybe even getting engaged, who knows. Work is still work, nothing new there. My relationship with my parents is slowly improving. We talk more frequently now, although Austin remains a topic we avoid. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing. If I was too hard, too inflexible. People tell me I should have been the bigger man, that I should have forgiven, that life is too short for grudges. But here's the thing. I don't see this as a grudge. I see this as maintaining a boundary, as respecting myself enough to say, no, I'm not going to pretend it's okay that my brother did what he did. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and forgiveness definitely doesn't mean letting someone back into your life like nothing happened. I don't know if I'll ever be able to truly forgive Austin. Maybe when I'm older, when I have more perspective, when emotions aren't so close to the surface, or maybe I'll never forgive him, and maybe that's okay too. Not everything needs to be fixed. Not all relationships need to be saved. Sometimes things break and stay broken, and life goes on anyway. What I do know is I don't regret holding my ground. I don't regret saying no when everyone was pressuring me to say yes. And I definitely don't regret raising a daughter who's strong enough to think for herself and make her own decisions, even if those decisions cause controversy. Megan showed me throughout all this that she understood what it meant to have principles, what it meant to support someone you love even when it's not the easiest or most popular thing. And that, for me, is worth more than any forced reconciliation with a brother who betrayed me more than 2 decades ago. Last week, Megan called me just to chat, told me about her honeymoon, about the plans she and David have to buy a house. At one point in the conversation, she told me, "Dad, I just wanted you to know that I don't regret anything that happened. I know it was difficult and complicated, but it made me realize what kind of person I want to be, and I want to be someone who stands up for what they believe is right, like you." I was speechless for a moment, and then I told her I was proud of her, more proud than I could express in words. And it's true. All this mess, all this drama, in the end gave me something unexpected. A stronger relationship with my daughter, and confirmation that maintaining my boundaries didn't make me lose what really mattered.